Rothschild Zionism want to take us, the Rothschilds want to take us into the Third World War. I've been saying this for years. And of course, it's supposed to come out of the Middle East. Third World War. It's all about death. These were all of them were Rothschild Zionists in the Project for the New American Century that orchestrated all this country after country takeover. But this guy, Albert Pike, was a high Freemason in America. And he wrote a letter, it said, someone say it's a forgery or a fake. Well, my God, I tell you what, these fakes and forgeries don't half tell a bloody tale with the hindsight of history. That's actually turned out to be true. Albert Pike, letter to Giuseppe Mazzini in 1871, he talked about 3 world wars coming so that and each one would go towards eventually taking over the world. And he talked about the First World War and the Second World War and how the Second World War would create a homeland for what he called political Zionism. And then he said this about the Third World War. The Third World War must be fomented by taking advantage of the differences caused by the agentur of the Illuminati, the network, the bloodlines, between the political Zionists, Israel in other words, and leaders of the Islamic world. The war must be conducted in such a way that Islam, the Muslim Arabic world, and political Zionism, the state of Israel, because they knew that was coming even then, mutually destroy each other. Meanwhile, note that, mutually destroy each other. Are you listening, people of Israel? Meanwhile, the other nations, once more divided on this issue, will be constrained to fight to the point of complete physical, moral and spiritual and economical exhaustion. And then he was pointing out that then they would move in and say, we can save everything, but you have to do what we say, and they have to do it the way we say it. It becomes a nuclear war, then changing out bonus. Very quickly, physical control too. This is the police state. This is the world of Agenda 21 that they want to bring in if we bleed and allow it, and we shouldn't. I mean, in terms of numbers, I mean, crikey, it's a no contest. Divide and rule stops us doing it. And we've reached this point in physical control where he has a kill list, which the people are then killed without trial or a judicial process or anything. He can, murder people in effect without recourse. You may have seen, and I've seen it all over the world, how the nature of police has changed. I call it recruiting the crazies. What they've been doing for decades now is recruiting law enforcement all around the world, Britain as well, not on the basis of whether they can do the job for the benefit of the community as they used to do, many of them do, and many of them still try to do it within a system that's a nightmare for them trying. You know, so many decent policemen are leaving, police officers are leaving, because they can't stand the freaking system that's coming in because the crazies are taking it over. And what they've been doing is recruiting on the basis of personality type rather than ability to do the job. And the personality types they want are narcissists, a psychological condition characterized by preoccupation, lack of empathy, and unconditional deficits in self-esteem, and psychopaths, a person with an antisocial personality disorder, manifested in aggressive, perverted, criminal or immoral behavior, and this is the common theme, without empathy or remorse. And that's why you're seeing the change in personality so dramatically in law enforcement around the world. And we get in a situation, this guy, Brandon Raub, all he did was write on his, I think it was his Twitter or one of these social networks, Facebook or whatever, about certain things about the New World Order and 9/11 he didn't like, gets picked up and taken away to a psychiatric hospital. And he would probably still be there if there wasn't this massive public outcry and help from a civil rights organization that sorted him out. Here you go, committing war crimes, happily retired, committing war crimes, wins Peace Prize, exposing war crimes, considered terrorist. And we're seeing all this stuff coming in and all the bloody drones in the sky and all this stuff around in space and hijacking the internet and the microchipping agenda that's coming in, stepping stone style with the electronic tattoo, as they call it, and stuff, and using barcodes for babies instead of names. And I love this one. You take a bloody tablet and it's got a microchip in it. Stage 1, patient takes pill, and has been modified to contain edible microchip. 2, after pill is swallowed, chip is activated by stomach fluids, sending signal on patch to arm. 4, receiver transmits information to mobile, telling patient when next dose is due and provides other health data. What? But you know what the agenda is? The agenda is that people will be drugged and they will be technologically monitored. We're looking a little bit further in the future now, but this is the agenda. They will be electronically, technologically monitored to make sure they have the drug, and that is the brave new world of suppression by medication. One quick thing before we move on. I'm just about on time. Transhumanism. That transhumanism is so-called enhancing the human form with technology. Or you can be a Superman. Well, what is this archontic force? This archontic force is a cyborg force. It is a robotic force. It doesn't have creative imagination and stuff like we humans have. And what they want to do, just as they're destroying the planet's organic nature, is they want to turn us into them and destroy our creative abilities and to turn us into cyborgs. That's what transhumanism is all about. And so all these different things go into the same thing. Shit Creek, this has been the paddle stores. And just very quickly, what people have been listening to today in their various places around the world has taken the subliminal into the conscious. And that means that anyone listening to this will be far more difficult to manipulate and scam after this point, because what has been subliminal has come into the conscious mind. I'll give you a quick example. Some people might have seen this, because it's not, it's around quite a bit. But if you haven't seen it, there are subliminals, very clear subliminals, if you know where they are, in these two pictures. And most people who've not seen them before will not be able to see them, about 95%. Well, for those who can't see them, that says sex there, and that says sex there. Now I've pointed out where they are. I've taken the subliminal into the conscious mind. From now on, every time you see that picture, the subliminal you couldn't see before will be the first thing you see. And that's what happens when you bring this information to the surface about what's going on. The language of symbols. So, and for people that haven't seen those pictures before, there you go. First thing you see. Conscious mind. This is why getting this information to the surface is so important. So, very quickly, the idea that all that I've talked about in this section alone is being orchestrated by men and women in dark suits around a table is ludicrous. That's just the play-out level. It's much deeper in the rabbit hole. We have to believe we have no power. We have to forget that we are infinite consciousness having an experience, so we become one of them. And, I'll say this finally in this section to people who think that you can escape from it by being spiritual and eating organic food and meditating and all that. Not knocking any of that, be my guest. But this is what happened to people in China that were doing that, the Falun Gong people. They don't want people to wake up. They don't want people to go into other levels of reality and realize what's bloody going on. So they were being horrifically attacked, abused and slaughtered and tortured as a result of simply wanting to be what we would call the basic New Age type of life. And so I say to New Agers and people like that who say, oh, it's negative. Listen, turn round and face it now while we're still in a situation we can turn this around, or face it then. That's your choice. So, where do we go from here? We bloody awaken.